Begin today the Gemara on the Abdallah Damut Bey is the last line. Okay, the Gemara here concluded the limud that it brought for what it said in the Mishnah, that Dina Mammon is b'shloisha, that the source from the Psukim, different opinions, whether it's shloisha, according to Rebbe, it's actually chamisha, regarding money matters. Okay, now the Gemara continues and says, Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braise, Dina Mammon is b'shloisha, that judging money matters should be with three, but v'im haya mumche l'rabim, if it's a person that's an expert for many to judge such matters, then dana fila yechidi, then he can judge even if he's just one person alone. Now the taich of mumche here is different than the lashon mumche that was brought before in Daf Beis. The Gemara before brought the expression of mumche. There Rashi said mumche means that you have smicha all the way till Moshe Rabbeinu. Mumche also means that he took rishus from the nasi to be able to judge. Over here, mumche just means that he's an expert and he actually knows hilchas dine mamonis properly, or others say that it means that he already judged many people and therefore he's a mumche. Now Rashi says that this braise is based on the opinion that we brought before, that really menatayre for dine mamonis you don't need more than one judge, because it says betzedek tishbait. Betzedek tishbait is lashon yachid. Menatayre, one judge is enough. The whole requirement of three is midrabanan. So because it's only midrabanan, in a case where he's a mumche, Chachamim allow him to judge himself. That's what Rashi says. Tosfos disagrees. Tosfos says that this braise follows the opinion that was brought before, that the requirement of three is menatayre. Elamai, we said already before that menatayre you really need three mumchin, but midrabanan, because shleitinol delas b'fnei loivin, so they allowed that you could have any plain, regular three people. So in a case of a mumche, the Chachamim allowed that you could have even just one person. Amar Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman said, Kagain, a person like myself, dan dine mamanis, b'yechidi. I can judge dine mamanis alone. V'chein Amar Rab Chia also said, Kagain someone like myself, dan dine mamanis b'yechidi. I can pass dine mamanis alone. Okay, so now the Gemara over here now discusses a certain detail about this koyach that a person has, if you're a mumche to judge dine mamanis yourself, when does that apply? So the Shaila was asked about this. When Rab Nachman said, Kagaina no, he gave the example like myself. Did he mean to say, Digamirna, I know the halachas well, Visavirna, and not only I know the halachas well, but I'm also able to add my own, and to answer questions, have my own svaris, and furthermore, Vinakitna Rishusa, and I also got permission from the Reish Galusa. When they were there in Bavel, he got permission from the Reish Galusa to judge Dine Mamanis. That's what Rav Nachman meant. Now, what that would mean is, Avaloi Noket Rishusa. If he didn't get permission from the Reish Galusa, then Dine Loi Dina. Then even as a mumche, even though he knows, then he could say Svaris, but he can't judge. He has to have Rishus. Or perhaps even without having any permission from the Reish Galusa, he still is able to judge himself. That's what he meant to say. Someone like me, that I know the halachis, I could say svaris, I can judge without getting any permission. That's the shaila. So the Gemara brings a raya, Toshima, the Marzutre, Bereder Rav Nachman. Marzutre, the son of Rav Nachman, Don Dina. So there was a case where he paskined a certain din and dine mamanis, and v'tah, and he made a mistake in the Psak Din. Also, like Rav Yosef, so he came to ask Rav Yosef, in such a case where he made a mistake, does he have to pay himself? Is he responsible to pay for the mistake that he made? Oh, Malay, and Rav Yosef told him as follows: Im kiblucha alayu. If the people that you were judging them, they accepted you as their judge, meaning that they totally accepted you. As Rashi says, they said, we're appointing you to judge us, whether you make a mistake, whether you don't, we're accepting you. So then later shalom, then you don't have to pay. But viloi, if they didn't accept you to be their judge no matter what, but they just said, come, paskin fasa din teire, but they didn't accept no matter what that they're going to accept your psak din, then zil shlim, then you're going to have to go and pay for the mistake. So now what do you see from here? So the Gemara says, Shmamina, from here I see, kilei noket rishusa, dina dina. That a person that's judging alone, even without getting a permission from the Reish Galusa, he has the koyach to judge if he knows the halachis. Well, now, what's the raya the Gemara is bringing here? So the raya is because in this case, Mazutra, the son of Rav Nachman, did not get rishus from the Reish Galusa. How do we know? Because later in the Gemara, Davav Be'ikir, it says, or here the Gemara says it over here soon, and the Gemara will discuss it more later on Davav, in a case where a person got rishus to judge, then no matter what, if he makes a mistake in his psak din, he doesn't have to pay for it. Over here, the fact that Rav Yosef is telling him, it depends, the people that appointed you to judge them, did they accept you 100%? Did they not? So we see that Mazutre was not appointed, he didn't get that reshus from the Reish Galusa to judge. And nevertheless, he was judging people. So Shmam Yinah, from here we see this, that even without getting reshus, he's able to judge people in Dinei Mamanis. Oh, so here the Gemara brings this concept: if you get reshus, you're not responsible for the mistake that you make. We'll see. There's more about this later. This is on Daf Vav later, here the next plot, and later on Daf Lamed Gimel. It also really depends what kind of mistake you make. It's not any kind of mistake. We'll see. There's more details about this. Omar Rav, now Rav said, "Haiman de boye lemeidan dina." Someone that wants to judge the halachas, the dinim of dinei mamanis, money matters, v'ita, and if he'll make a mistake, mi boyle miftar, he wants to be exempt, it shouldn't be his responsibility, so what should he do? Lishka reshusa mi reish galusa. Let him get permission from the reish galusa. So once you're judging as you were appointed by the reish galusa to judge, then if you make a mistake, it won't be your responsibility. Shmuel also said this, Lishkol Rishusam Yibei Reish Galusa, you should get permission from the Reish Galusa, and then because B'Rishus, he's judging people, it's not just Stam that he himself appointed himself, so then he won't have a responsibility for the mistake that he makes. Okay, now here the Gemara discusses getting permission, exactly from who do you get permission, from who does it help? Now, Pshita, this is obvious, Mehacha Lahacha. If you're living in Bavel, here in Bavel, and you get permission from the Reish Galusa here in Bavel, and you want to judge people here in Bavel, and also Umehasam Lahasam, the people that are in Eretz Yisrael, and they're getting permission from the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. In Bavel, the Yidden had a Reish Galusa, and in Eretz Yisrael they had a Nasi. So if you're in Eretz Yisrael and you got permission from the Nasi to judge, and you want to judge over there in Eretz Yisrael, Mahani. So that permission is good. Now Umehacha Lahasam. Nami Mahani. If you're living here in Bavel and you get permission from the Reish Galusa in Bavel and you want to use that permission to judge people in Eretz Yisrael, it also is enough. And what's the reason for this? Why getting permission from the Reish Galusa in Bavel is strong enough to not use that to go judge people in Eretz Yisrael? So the Gemara says the reason is because the Hacha Shevet, based on the pasuk that we'll see here in a moment, here in Bavel, the leader of the Yidden, the Reish Galusa, in the pasuk is referred to as a shevet. Shevet literally means you're using a rod to rule people with. That's a very strong ruler. And Vahasam in Eretz Yisrael, the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, in the pasuk is referred to as the Mechaykik. Mechaykik means the one that establishes the law, not such a powerful ruler as Shevet. So therefore, if you get permission from the Reish Galusa and Bavel, that's actually a stronger, more powerful permission than getting permission from the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael. Kedetanya, as we see in the Braise, it explains the pasuk that it says, Lo Yasa, the bracha of Yaakov, when he said to his children, he said, Lo Yasa Shevet mi Yehuda, that the ruler from Shevet Yehuda will not be removed. What does this Shevet refer to? Ele Rashi Gali Bavel. This refers to the Reish Galusa, when Yidden were in Galus and Bavel, Shereiden es Yisrael b'Shevet, that they ruled Yidden with a strong hand, like a Shevet, with a rod. O Mechaykik mi ben Raglov. Who's the Mechaykik, the one that judges Yidden in Eretz Yisrael? Elu b'nei Banov shel Hillel. These are the descendants of Hillel. Shem lamdim Torah berabim, that taught Yidden Torah berabim. They were the Nasi on the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. So because the pasuk uses the term Shevet for the ruler in Bavel, so if you get permission from the Reish Galusa in Bavel, you can judge Yidden in Bavel. You can judge Yidden in Eretz Yisrael also. Now the shaila though is mehasam lehacha mai. If you only got permission from the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, which is a lower level of a ruler, could you now judge Yidden in Bavel? The Taisus over here says, I believe, that it says there in the pasuk that both the Reish Galusa in Bavel and the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, they came from Shevet Yehuda. They really came from Malchus Beis David. And the reason why the ruler in Bavel was more powerful was because the ruler in Bavel was Ben Achaben from David HaMelech. But the ruler in Eretz Yisrael was not necessarily Ben Achaben from David, so therefore he was a lower level of a ruler. So that's the Shaila of the Gemara. If you get permission from the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, could you judge Yidden in Bavel? Says the Gemara, Tashama, bring you a raya. The Rabbi Bar Chana Don Dina. Rabbi Bar Chana was judging people in Bavel. Now this is Rabbi Bar Chana. Taisus points out, usually in Gemara, it always talks about Rabbi Bar Chana, which is the grandson of Chana. This is an exception. This is Rabbi, which was actually the son of Chana. So he was judging people, V'ta, and he made a mistake. He came to Rab Chiya, which actually was his uncle. Amalei, so Rab Chia told him as follows, like similar to what we said before. Ikiblu chalayu, if the people that you're judging them accepted you as a judge, even if you make a mistake, they said we're accepting you no matter what, lo tishalem. You don't have to pay for your mistake. But v'lo, if they didn't accept you no matter what, they just said stam, come and judge us, then zilshlim, you have to pay for your mistake. So we see that Rabbi Bar Chana was judging people in Bavel. Now, who gave him permission to judge people? He did have permission to judge people. The Gemara is soon going to bring the story where we see that Rabbi Bar Chana got permission from Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael to judge people. And nevertheless, what did it say over here? That if he made a mistake, then it'll depend on the people that he was judging if they accepted the mistake or not. Now, if he got permission, if that permission that he got from Rebbe was effective, it shouldn't make any difference. So Shema Mina, from this we see, Me Hasam Lahacha, if you get permission there in Eretz Yisrael and you want to come judge people here in Bavel, Loi Mahani. It doesn't work. And therefore, over here, if the people that appointed him to judge them did not accept no matter what, he would have to pay for the mistake. Shema Mina, this is a raya for this. But the Gemara asks, Loi Mahani, if you get permission in Eretz Yisrael, from the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, it won't help you to be able to judge in Bavel. Rabbi Baravone was arguing with the Reish Galusa about something. And Omar, he said to the Reish Galusa, I didn't get any permission from you. I don't need you. I didn't get permission from you to judge people here. Now, Kitner Reshusa, where did I get my permission from? Mi Abba Mari, from my father. And V'Abba Mari, mi Rav. My father got permission to judge from Rav. And V'Rav, mi Rab Chia. Rav got his permission from Rab Chia. And Rab Chia, mi Rebbe. And Rab Chia got permission from Rebbe, which was in Eretz Yisrael. So over here we see that Rabbi Baravona was saying that he's using his permission that goes back to Rebbe, which was in Eretz Yisrael, to judge people in Bavel. But we just said that you can't use the permission from Eretz Yisrael to judge people in Bavel. So the Gemara answers, he wasn't saying it as something which is actually useful. He was just saying this against the Reish Galusa that he had an argument with, but it wasn't really something that he can actually use as a koyach to judge people in Bavel, that he wouldn't be responsible for the mistake. Okay, so now the Gemara goes back here and to the point that it said before, Rabbi Bar Chana got permission from Rebbe to judge people in Bavel. But what did we say? That permission that you get from Rebbe doesn't give you any power. It doesn't help you in Bavel anyways. If the permission that Rabbi Bar Chana gets from Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael doesn't help, so Rabbi Bar Chana Reshusa Denakat Lamali. So what did he bother getting permission from Rebbe to judge people outside of Eretz Yisrael? And says the Gemara, he was judging people in cities outside of Eretz Yisrael, which is right on the border, and they follow after Eretz Yisrael, and therefore for them, his permission did work to be able to judge them. Now, where do you see that Rabbi Bar Chana got permission from Rebbe to judge people? Because Rabbi Bar Chana Bavel. When Rabbi Bar Chana was descending from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, so Rab Chia said to Rebbe, Ben Nochi, the son of my brother, in other words, this was his nephew, Yored LeBavel. He's going down to Bavel. So Yored, do you give him permission that he's able to paskin for people halachis regarding Isser v'heter? That's what Yored always means, to paskin regarding all halachis of Yored Deya, Isser v'heter. And Rebbe said, yeah, Yored, I give him permission to be able to paskin in those areas. Yodin, is he able to paskin regarding money matters? And Rebbe answered, yes, I give him permission, Yodin, let him paskin for money matters. And third thing, Yater b'chayris, is he able to inspect animals, the firstborn, the b'chayr, in order to be able to use it has to have a mum kavua. You have to make sure that the blemish that it has is a permanent mum, so then you're able to shecht it and use it. So is he able to inspect animals for this? So Rebbe said, Yater, he gives him permission for this as well. This is where the source of this, the famous, this is the expression that's always used regarding Yaida or Yodin Yodin, regarding Issa v'heter and regarding money matters. So this is where we see that Rabbi Bar Chana got permission from Rebbe to judge. When Rav was descending to Bavel, so Rab Chia, he was the uncle of Rabbi Bar Chana and he was also the uncle of Rav. So Rab Chia said to Rebbe, Ben Achoisi Yered LeBavel, the son of my sister, is going down to Bavel. So again, he asked to get permission that he should be able to paskin for people. Yoida, could he paskin Issa v'heter? And Rebbe responded, Yoida. Yodin, could he paskin money matters? And Rebbe responded, Yodin, yes, he can paskin. Yater b'chayris, can he paskin regarding inspecting animals to see if it has a mum by a bechor. And here, Rebbe actually said, al yater. No, I don't allow him to paskin on this subject. And the Gemara will soon explain why he didn't want to give him a heter for this. Okay, so now here the Gemara discusses in detail. Both Rabbi Bar Chana and and Rav were nephews of Rab Chia. But now one of them, it said here, was a nephew because it was his brother's son, and Rav was his sister's son. That's what it said. So the Gemara asks, what's the difference? Lamar de Kakari ben Achi. Why, when it came to Rabbi Bar Chana, Rab Chia says that this is my nephew, it's my brother's son. Lamar. Why, when it comes to Rav, the Kakari ben Achaisi, he says that this is my sister's son. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? If you'll say, what kind of question is this? That's the fact. The fact is, this is his brother's son and this is his sister's son. Says the Gemara, but it's not true. We know the master said about this family that there were the following brothers: Eivu, or Aivu, V'chone, V'shile, Omarte, V'Rab Chia. Kulu, all of these brothers and sisters here were Bnei Abba Bar Acha Karsele Mikfari. Havu. They were the sons of Abba Baracha from Karsele, from this Karsele Kfari. Or Acha Karsele is his name, Mikfari, from the place Kfari. So they were all brothers. So what do we see over here? That Rav's father was Aivu. So Aivu was actually a brother to Rab Chia. So just like Chana was a brother to Rab Chia, and therefore Rabbi Bar Chana, he says, is my brother's son. So Rav was also Rab Chia's brother's son. So why is he saying it's my sister's son? So the Gemara says, actually over here, in this case, Rav bar Achue Dahave bar Achse. Rav was actually both a son of Aivu's brother and a son of Aivu's sister. And the way that's possible is because he was a brother, Rav Chia was a brother to Aivu, only sharing the same father. And he was a brother to the sister, sharing the same mother. And these two, the mother and father of Rav, were not brothers and sisters at all. What happened was, Aivu's father, what was his name again? Abba Bar Acha Karsele. So he got married to one woman, and he had a son, Aivu, and then he got married to a second wife. Later, his wife passed away. He got married to a second wife, and then his second wife had already a daughter, which her name was Ima. Her name was Ima. She was the mother of Rav from a different marriage. So Aivu and Ima did not share a mother or a father at all. But then, from the second marriage, Rab Chia was born. So Rab Chia was had a sister, Ima, where he shared the same father, and he had also a brother, which was Aivu, where he shared the same father. But these two were not brothers and sisters. So it came out that Rav was the nephew of Rab Chia, both because it was his brother's son and his sister's son. So therefore, over here, he mentioned that it's his sister's son. But Rabbi Bar Chana was his nephew, which was Bar Achu. He was only his nephew because he was his brother's son, but he was not his sister's son. So that's why he said it's my brother's son. Another pshat, why did Rab Chia refer to Rav as his sister's son? We're going to Amud Beis, because because of the pasuk that it says, Hashem Chachmaseh, because of the great wisdom of Rav, that he was a very big Chacham. So the pasuk says, D'chsiv, Emor lachachma achaysiyat, that I say to wisdom, you're my sister. So because of the expression in the pasuk of the sister regarding Chachma, so he would refer to Rav as the son of my sister. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to what it said, that Rebbe did not want to give Rav permission to paskin regarding inspecting the bechor to be materet in a case where it has a mum kavua, a permanent blemish. So frek the Gemara, so what did it say before? Yate bechoris. So Rab Chia asked, could Rav be mater bechoris? And he said, no, al yater. I don't give him permission to be mater. Frek the Gemara, my time. Why didn't you want to give him permission? If you're going to say because he wasn't so wise, he didn't know the halachas, so he didn't want to give him permission. But Hakamrina, we just said the Chakim Tuva, that Rav was very wise, and it's that one of the reasons why he called him the son of my sister, because it's like Chachma, Chachma Chaysiyat. You're going to say the reason is Mishum Deloy Bekiya B'mumi. Maybe he knew the halachas, but he didn't know the facts about an animal. It's not enough to know the halachas. You actually have to know the animal to see exactly where and what a mum is, to know what's a mum kavua. So maybe he wasn't a baki in the facts. That's why he couldn't judge in this matter. But the Gemara says that also can't be, because Rav himself said, Shmoina asa chadashim gadalti etzel roya be'ema. 18 months he spent with a shepherd, with animals. Why? Leida ezamum kavua ve'ezamum oiver. to become proficient to know what's a mum that's permanent and what's a mum that comes and goes, to know which mum for the B'chair would be materet to shechtet. So he knew the halachis, he knew the facts of the behemoths. So why didn't Rav, again Rebbe, give Rav permission to paskin on this? So Gemara says two pshatim. One pshat is Ella. The reason is lachloik loy kovid l'Rabbi Bachana. Rabbi Bachana and Rav, which were cousins, were first cousins, and they both went down to Bavel at the same time. So he didn't want to give Rav permission in this area. So then Rabbi Bachana would have his covet that people would come to him to ask him the halachas in this area. Rashi says here, because now there wasn't anything necessary to do in order that people should give covet to Rav, because Rav was so great, he'll get his covet. But for Rabbi Bar Chana, Rebbe wanted to leave him this area that he should pass and that he should get covet. Another pshat, mishumha gufe, the Rav bekiye b'mumitfei, because this itself that we said that Rav was such an expert when it came to the mumim of an animal, and v'shari mumi de lo yediyah inshi. And Rav maybe matter a certain mum that people don't understand what the nature of this mum is. And the Amri, people may say, oh, Kihai Gavne Shara Rav. Look, Rav was matter such a kind of mum, and people will think that that's really a kind of mum which is a permanent mum. And still Rav is being mattered. And the Asur Mishri, people will say that this mum that Rav was matter is not a permanent mum. People will say that the mum that Rav was matter is a mum over. It's a mum that leaves, that passes. And still Rav was matter it. And therefore people may come to be matter even a mum that leaves, that passes, that you can't be matter. Right? So in a way, it's better to allow a person that's not as proficient as Rav in knowing the mumin, so he'll be more machmer about this. But Rav is such a baki, and he may be matter in such a way that people might not understand what he's doing, and that might cause people to compare to another case to be matter, even in a case where there's a mum over. Now the Gemara goes back to another detail. So when by Rav and by Rabbi Bachana, when they were going down to Bavel, so Rab Chia asked to give them permission to paskin halachis of Issa v'heter. Yoyre. He asked Rab Chia, could they paskin Issa v'heter? And he said, Yoyre, yes, let them paskin Issa v'heter. Now the question is, I gomer. If you know the halachas, you learn Shulchan Aruch, you know the halachas of Issa v'heter. Rishus elam eli lemishkal. Why, for such a kind of subject, do you need rishus? So for Yodin, for Dinei Mamonis, we know why you need Rishus, because the Gemara said before that if you don't get Rishus and then you make a mistake, then it's going to be your responsibility. But if you get Rishus to pass on Dinei Mamonis, then even when you make a mistake, you won't be responsible to pay for it. So that we understand. And Taisus over here says, once you get Rishus for Dinei Mamonis, even if when you paskin Issa v'heter, you end up causing someone a money damage, but because you got Rishus for Dinei Mamonis, you won't be responsible for any damage that was caused by paskening Issa v'heter as well. So if so, why did he need permission to paskin Issa v'heter? Or what we call today, to get smicha for yoyre, to get smicha for Issa v'heter. What's this whole idea? If you know the halachas, you can paskin. If you don't know, you can't paskin. Says the Gemara, Mishumaisa Shahaya. The reason why, even for Issa v'heter to paskin, you have to have smichet, you have to have reshus to paskin, is because of the following incident that happened. The Tanya we learned in Abraisa. Pa'amachas cholach Rebbe l'mokim echad. Once Rebbe came to a certain place, v'ro b'nei adam shemegavlim yiseseim betumah. And Rebbe saw that the people there, they're kneading their dough with water which is tummy. So Amalehem, so Rebbe said to them, why are you making your dough that it should be tameh? Why aren't you being mitar yekalim? So Amrulai, they said to him, Talmud echad balakan. There was a certain student that was here, and he paskened for us mei bitzaim ei machshirin, that the mei bitzaim, which they understood this to mean, mei bitzaim means waters from a lake or waters from a pond of water. If you use water from a pond, those kind of waters are not going to make the food that it comes in contact with susceptible to tumah. We know any of the liquids, there's the Zayin Mashkin that makes things susceptible to tumah. No, this is not a wellspring. Okay. But this is maybe a agam, Rashi says, a agam, like a pond, yeah. That this water will not make it susceptible to tumah. This is what a Talmud taught us. Now, what really happened here? This thing was a mistake. He said really that the egg, if you open an egg and you have the yolk or the white of the egg, that does not make something susceptible to tumah. And the inu savor, and they thought mei bitzoim kama. They said mei bitzoim, and that was one mistake they made. Taisvus here actually says that how do you make such a type of mistake from the word bitzaim to beitzim? It's a strange mistake. So, the word beitza could mean a bitza, like a mud, like a puddle, like a puddle of water, like when it rains
swampy.
and swampy, yeah. So so that word, so it made beitzim even without the ayin, it could be a swampy place, and that's what they thought he was talking about. Okay, that was one mistake of what happened when this person paskined. Now another mistake they made, v'tol nami baha. The mistake was also that they compared the halachis of the liquid of water that makes something susceptible to tumah to the halachis of the water that's used for the para duma. And they said like this: we know that may karmi yain, the waters from the river karmi yain, or may piga, the waters from another river piga psulin. It's possible it can't be used for the para duma. Why? Mipnei sheheim mei bitzaim, or the other gears over here is that it's mei beitzim, because these are waters that are coming from rivers or from different places, and the water for the paraduma has to be maim chaim, has to be wellspring waters. It can't be waters from the river. Now ve'enu savar. So they thought and they compared middle gabi chatas psili. If for the chatas, which refers to the paraduma, it's possible. So this is kinds of waters that will not cause something to be susceptible to tumah. But v'lohi, it's not true. There's no comparison. Hasam len yachatas bina maim chayim. By chatas, the Torah says maim chayim. Hacha achshuri koldu machshuri. Over here, any kinds of water will make the food that comes in contact with it susceptible to tumah. So now, it's because of this story that happened that you see that there was a Talmud. He knew the halachas, but he didn't know how to teach it properly. He wasn't sure to say it in a clear way that the people listening should get what he's saying straight. So it says, Tana, we learned now about this, that Bais Shah Gozru, it's at that time that it was decreed, Talmud al Yaira, a student learning, even if he knows the halachas of Issa V'Heter, he should not paskin, el em kain, noitel reshus mirabbai, unless he gets permission from his Rebbe to paskin. This is the source of the smicha that we do today. Right, the real smicha that the Gemara spoke about, that Rashi mentions before, the smicha of a mumche that goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu, that was already nifsek in the time of the Gemara, or even before. But the smicha b'negei to paskening yoyre, that you have permission to pasken, that Rav sees that you know the halachas and he gives you permission, that this is the source, this is the gzeira. Talk to Gemara weiter, Tanchum berei de Rabami, Tanchum, the son of Ravami, ikla lechatar, he came to a place called Chatar. Now, Darish Luhu, so he taught them, Mutter lilsais chitim bepesach, that you're allowed to take the kernels of wheat on Pesach and soak it in hot water before you're going to then grind it and make flour out of it. And we're not concerned that it then could make it chometzdik. If you take it right away and grind it and make flour out of it, it's allowed. We don't paskin like this today, but this is what he paskin to them, for them. Amrullah, so they said to Tanchum, Lav Rav Mani, the Minsur Ikahacha, isn't Rav Mani, the great Rabbani, which was also his teacher, isn't he here with us in the city? And Vitanya, we learned in the Braise, Talmud al Yoire, a Talmud is not allowed to paskin a halacha regarding Issa V'Heter b'makim rabbi, in a place where his teacher is there. Elam kain hayarachik bimenu sholish parsois, unless there's a distance between where he is and where his teacher is, 3 parsa, which is connected Machne Yisrael, which is the size of the area where the Yidden camped in the Midbar, and we learn it from there, because when the Yidden were in the Midbar, when they had a shaila of Issa V'Heter, they had to go to Moshe Rabbeinu, even if you're going from one side to the other side, even though there may be someone else that's able to paskin, you have to go to Moshe Rabbeinu. So from there we learn out that you're not allowed to paskin if your Rebbe is there in that area. So Malahu, so Tanchum, he paskin this halacha, he said, Lavadatoi, I wasn't aware, I didn't know that my teacher is here. Now there are Rishonim that say that in a case where the Rebbe gives him the permission to paskin, he is able to paskin even over there in the city where his Rebbe is. Others say not, but others say that then you will be able to paskin. Another story the Gemara brings, Rab Chia Chaziela Hu Gavre Davakoi Beis HaKvaris. Rab Chia saw an individual that was standing in a Beis HaKvaris. Amalei said to this person, Lab ben Ish Pleni Kainata, aren't you the son of so and so, which is a Kain? Amalei, so he says to Rab Chia, yeah, it's true. Avuda Hu Gavre, but you should know that the father of that person, referring to himself, his own father, Gvai Naimave, he had big eyes, and therefore he followed where his eyes were taking him, and therefore Nasan Ein of Begrusha, he saw a woman which was a divorced woman, and he's not allowed to marry her. He's a Kayin, and he got married to this divorced woman, and I'm the son. So therefore he's a Kayin, which is a Chalal, and that's why he says he's a Kayin Chalal, so the halachas don't apply to him, and that's why he's allowed to be in the Beis HaKvaris. Rashi here has a long discussion. What exactly is the connection of the story here to our Gemara? And in one shot, Rashi says the reason the Gemara is bringing this here is because we just said that a student is not allowed to paskin in a case where his teacher is there in that city. Here, the Gemara is bringing this case as an exception. A student is allowed to paskin when he sees right in front of him someone being over a isser, to be mafresh someone from a isser. You're allowed to paskin even when your Rebbe is there. And that's the story that happened over here when Abchia saw this kohen in a Beis HaKvaros and he wanted to be mafresh him from an isser. Okay, now going back to what it said before regarding giving permission to paskin. So pshita, this is pashatas lepalga. If you want to give someone permission, not for everything, you want to give him permission just for yoyre, just for isav heter, or just for dinei mamanis, or so then for one area to paskin, you're giving permission. So then that's allowed because haka'ama damahani. You said already before that works. We see by Rav. Rav didn't get permission to paskin for a heter of b'chayris, but he got permission to paskin for dinei mamanis and for isav heter. Now the shaila is al tanai mai. Could you give someone permission to paskin with a certain condition, meaning only for a certain amount of time? You tell him, you have permission for the next 2 years in this area. I'm leaving town. You're going to be here. I'm giving you permission just for these 2 years. Is that a permission that will be effective? So the Gemara brings it out. Toshema damale Rav Yechanan Rav Shemen. Rav Yechanan said to Rav Shemen when he was leaving, Harei ata b'rishuseinu ad shetovi etzleinu, that you have now the permission to paskin over here until you're going to come to us. Meaning that when Rabbi Yechanan was leaving, he gave Rav Shemen permission to paskin in this area until he'll join back Rabbi Yechanan together. I think that's tight over here. So over here you see that he gave him permission for just a number of years. That permission is enough, granted. Guf, going back to halacha that was mentioned before, and Daf Dalet I think it was, or the Gemara mentioned before, Omar Shmuel said, Beis Shadanu, even though we said the din of mamanis has to be with 3, but if 2 paskin, dineim din. So the din is accepted. Elo shenikra bezdin chotzuf. This is a bezdin that's called a audacious bezdin. Rashi before brought that the opinion of Shmuel, or the Gemara actually explained before, this is on Daf Gimel actually, the Gemara explained that the opinion of Shmuel is based on the shitta that says that really minat Torah, you only need 1 person for dinei mamanis. It's only at takanim d'Rabbanan that you need 3. So it shouldn't be just yoshvei kranis. So therefore, if 2 paskin, so the din is a din. So Rav Nachman said over this halacha of Shmuel, Rav Nachman said, asked Rav Nachman from the following Mishnah here, later in the Masechta. It says, so usually by din mamanis, when you have 3, what happens if you have 2 that are saying that this person is zakai? Or another 2 are saying that this person is chayiv. And now another one, the third judge, he's saying, any day, I have no clue. I don't know one way or another. So what do you do in such a case? So you see for a dayanim, you have to add another person, a third person here to these dayanim. Because now it's only 2. The third person is like not part of this bezdin at all. So the interesting thing is, if the third person is actually saying, these 2 say zakai, and the third person says chayev, or the 2 people say, 2 judges say chayev, and he says zakai, then it is 3 dayanim. But if the third person is just saying, I don't know, so then he has no clue, so then he's like not a judge at all. So then you're going to have to add a third judge. Now the question is, if what Shmuel said is true, that b'diavad, once you paskin and 2 people, it's a psak din, so let it be like 2 that paskin, and it's accepted. Answers the Gemara, no. Shani Hasam, and that Mishnah is different. The meikara adaita the tlasa yasivi. Once they sat together as 3 to be a judge, 3 judges, so then you have to follow through, like the takanim that Rabbanan was, that it should be 3. Hacha lava adaita tlasa yasivi over here. If it's 2 sitting down, so then you paskin just with 2, and b'diavad it's a bezdin chotzav, but their psaktim will be accepted. Another shaila was asked. It says in the Braisa, Rav Shimon Gamliel Leimer, Hadin b'shloisha. When you paskin money matters, so then you have to have 3 judges for this. Upshare, but if you're not going to actually paskin a halacha based on what the halacha is, but you're going to make a pshare, you're going to make a compromise, and the 2 people here are accepting these judges to administer this pshare between them. So in such a case, b'shnayim, you just need 2. And the Braisa goes on to say, v'yafa koyach pshare mikoyach hadin. When you make a pshare, the power of the bezdin that is making this pshare for the 2 is stronger than the koyach of a psak din. Why? Because sheshnayim shadonu bali din When two are judged and they're paskening the halacha, the actual halacha, without a pshara, this is something that they can have charata from. They can go back on this. But once you made a pshara, so if these baladinim accepted upon themselves to follow by this pshara, you can't go back on this. Baladinim is the litigants, the two people here. Yeah,
what do you mean they can change it?
They can be chayzer from their agreement to accept this psak din of the judges. They can be chayzer from their agreement to accept this.
It would be three.
Right?
When it's not a pshara?
No, not a pshara. When there's a psak din, when there's an actual psak din, they can be chayzer from this from accepting the. Taisus over here actually says, if it's a case where they accepted upon themselves clearly, explicitly, they said we're accepting these dayanim to be the judges no matter what, and there's no difference if there's a din or if there's a pshara. It makes no difference. The case over here is when they came to two to paskin for them, and they told these two judges. Paskin, Lashon Taisus uses is Dunu Aisanu Kamoisher Gidon Lasasadin. They didn't say clearly we're going to accept your psak din no matter what. They just said paskin for us as you usually do, or by a pshara they said make a pshara for us as you usually do. In such a case, so by a pshara they're accepting more, they're relying more on them because who's making the pshara? The din is the din al pitayre, but the pshara comes from them. You're relying on them to make the pshara. In such a case, you can't go back. But when you're saying we're accepting you to be the dayanim to paskin the din al pitayre, in such a case they can say later on that we didn't really accept you fully, and they can go back on that. Okay, now the Gemara goes on to say, V'chi teime pligi rabbanon alei de Rav Shimon Gamliel. If you're going to say that the Rabbanon in that Braisa, the Gemara brings it later, the Rabbanon argue on Rav Shimon Gamliel. So if you'll say that the Rabbanon argue on this detail here, that Rav Shimon Gamliel said about this as well, right? Rav Shimon Gamliel he says over there, Hadin b'shleisha. He starts off saying that the din of Dinei Mamonos has to be with three. So if you would say that the Rabbanon argue on this detail that Rav Shimon Gamliel says, and so therefore, So the Gemara brings, but for Amar Rabavo said, Shnayim Shadanu Ledivri Akel in the name din. When two paskin, so then the din is not a judgment. And that's L'Kula Alma, not only according to Rav Shimon Gamliel, even according to the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan agree to what Rav Shimon Gamliel says in the beginning of the Braisa, that when you have Dinei Mamonos, you must have three, you can't have two. So if so, how could Shmuel say that b'diavad, if two paskin, that it's going to be a psak din, even though it's a bez nechotzav? So the Gemara says, Gavre karamis, you're asking a stira from what Rabavo said to what Shmuel said. According to Rabavo, both Rabbanon and Rav Shimon Gamliel hold that you can't paskin with two, and b'diavad it's not going to be a din. But Shmuel says that Rabbanon disagree with Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rav Shimon Gamliel says you must have three, but the Rabbanon hold the b'diavad, if you paskin with two, the psak din takes effect.